The discovery that changed everything. When the universe went silent. The observation deck of station Kepler 7 hummed with its usual rhythm. Screens displayed data streams from 1,000 worlds, each one a whisper from the vast darkness beyond. Commander Zethus of the Valerian Empire stood before the main console, her 4 eyes scanning the readouts with practiced efficiency. The Valorians had monitored this sector of space for 3 centuries, and nothing surprised them anymore. Until today. "Commander," called out Technician Rel, his crystalline fingers dancing across his control panel. "We're detecting an anomaly in Sector 447. Zethus approached, her tall frame casting shadows across the glowing displays. The Valorians were known throughout the galaxy as the Great Observers, the record-keepers of cosmic events. Their patience was legendary, their attention to detail unmatched. "What kind of anomaly?" she asked. Rel's face flickered with confusion, a ripple of light passing through his translucent skin. "That's the strange part, Commander. It's not what's there. It's what's missing." The pattern no one expected. The screen showed a map of local space, dotted with thousands of active signals. Radio waves, quantum transmissions, stellar radiation, the normal chatter of a living galaxy. But in one small region, roughly 20 light-years across, there was nothing. Complete silence. "A dead zone?" Zethus suggested. "No, ma'am. Dead zones are natural. This appeared suddenly, 12 hours ago. One moment, we were receiving normal signals from 17 inhabited systems. The next moment, silence." Zethus felt a chill run through her. In 300 years of observation, entire systems didn't just go silent. Not simultaneously. Not without warning. Could it be equipment failure? Rel shook his head. "I've run diagnostics 3 times. Our equipment is functioning perfectly. The silence is real." Before Zethus could respond, another technician called out from across the room. "Commander. We're detecting a new signal. It's coming from inside the silent zone. The human broadcast." Everyone turned to face the main screen. A waveform appeared, pulsing with strange patterns. It wasn't like any transmission they'd encountered before, not Valerian, not KRYLL, not even the ancient predecessor codes they'd discovered in forgotten ruins. "Can you translate it?" Zethus asked. The station's translation AI worked for several minutes, its processors struggling with the unusual structure. Finally, text began appearing on the screen. "This is Captain Sarachan of the human vessel Wanderer. To any species receiving this message, do not approach the silent zone. I repeat, do not approach. We have contained the threat, but the containment is unstable. You have 48 hours to evacuate all nearby systems." The observation deck fell silent. Humans. The galaxy's newest species, barely 2 centuries into space travel. The young race that other civilizations either ignored or viewed with curious amusement. What could they possibly have contained? What the Valorians knew about humans. Zethus pulled up the human file from the station's database. The information was sparse. Humans came from a mid-sized world they called Earth, located in an unremarkable spiral arm. They were bipedal, carbon-based, and unusually adaptable. But their most notable characteristic was their impulsiveness. Where Valorians spent decades planning missions, humans launched within months. Where the KRYLL built cities that took centuries to complete, humans erected theirs in years. The galactic community generally saw them as reckless children playing with technologies they barely understood. "Commander," Rel said, uncertainty in his voice. "Should we evacuate?" Zethus studied the message again. Every instinct told her to investigate first. The Valorians didn't flee based on warnings from species with less than a millennium of spaceflight experience. "No," she decided. "But we'll send a probe to investigate. Prepare the long-range scanner." The approach. 20 hours later, their probe reached the edge of the silent zone. The last images it transmitted before losing contact showed something that made Zethus's blood run cold. The 17 star systems weren't destroyed. They were still there, still intact. But they were frozen, locked in a bubble of distorted spacetime. Planets hung motionless in their orbits. Suns burned without flaring. It was as if someone had pressed pause on reality itself. And in the center of it all sat a human ship. The Wanderer was small by galactic standards, barely the size of a Valerian transport vessel. But surrounding it was a web of energy unlike anything in their databases, a lattice of quantum fields holding back something vast and terrible. "What are they doing?" Rel whispered. Before anyone could answer, a new message arrived. "This is Chen again. I see your probe. You've got 36 hours now. The thing we're holding used to be called a void eater in the old predecessor texts. We found it buried in a dead star, and we were stupid enough to wake it. It feeds on dimensional energy, and it was about to consume this entire sector. We managed to trap it, but the containment won't hold forever. Please, evacuate your people." The decision that changed everything. Zethus pulled up everything they had on Void Eaters. The files were ancient, dating back to the predecessor civilization that had ruled the galaxy millions of years ago. Void Eaters were cosmic predators, beings that existed between dimensions. The predecessors had supposedly destroyed them all, but clearly, one had survived. "If what she says is true," Rel said quietly, "that human ship is holding back something that could devour half the sector." Zethus made her decision. "Open a channel. Let me speak with this Captain Chen." The communication link crackled to life. A human face appeared on the screen, young by human standards, with dark hair tied back and exhaustion written across her features. But her eyes were clear and determined. "This is Commander Zethus of Station Kepler 7. Captain Chen, we need to understand your situation." Chen gave a tired smile. "Commander, I appreciate your curiosity, but you need to evacuate. We've got maybe 30 hours left." "How did you contain it?" "Does it matter?" "We did something stupid, and now we're fixing it." "It matters because if your containment fails, we need to know what we're facing." Chen was silent for a moment, then nodded. "Fair enough. We found old predecessor technology that could manipulate quantum foam, the underlying structure of spacetime itself. We built our own version, and we're using it to trap the Void Eater in a pocket dimension. But the device is burning out. When it fails, the Void Eater will break free, and it'll be hungry." The question no one wanted to ask. Zethus studied the human captain. "How many crew do you have aboard the Wanderer?" 42. "Well, 41 now. We lost Jackson when we first activated the containment field." "And you're all staying to maintain the field?" "Someone has to. If we abandon ship, the containment collapses immediately. At least this way, we buy time for others to escape." The observation deck was absolutely silent. Every Valerian present understood what they were hearing. This human crew, from a species barely out of its home system, was choosing to die to save civilizations they'd never met. "Captain," Zethus said slowly, "what if we could help you stabilize the containment?" Chen's expression shifted from resignation to something like hope. "You have technology that could help?" "We might. The Valorians have spent centuries studying predecessor ruins. We may have pieces of the puzzle you're missing." For the first time since the transmission began, Chen smiled, a real smile. "Then I guess we've got some work to do, Commander. But you'd better move fast. The clock is ticking, and time isn't something we have much of." Zethus turned to her crew. "Prepare the fast response ship. Load every piece of predecessor technology we have. And someone wake up Chief Engineer Moros. Tell him we need the impossible, and we need it in 30 hours." As alarms began sounding throughout Station Kepler 7, Zethus looked back at the screen, at the human captain who'd been ready to die to save strangers. Perhaps, she thought, the galaxy had underestimated humanity. Perhaps it was time to see what humans could really do when they weren't working alone, the choice that saved a sector. Racing against the void. The Valerian fast response ship cut through space at speeds that would have terrified most species. Inside, Commander Zethus sat surrounded by containers of predecessor artifacts, each one potentially the key to saving or destroying everything in this sector. Beside her, Chief Engineer Moros studied holographic schematics of the Wanderer's containment field. He was old even by Valerian standards, his crystalline body bearing the cloudy marks of 3 centuries of life. But his mind was still sharp, and right now, that mind was working faster than it had in decades. Impossible, he muttered for the 5th time. What these humans have done is absolutely impossible. And yet they've done it, Zethus replied. They've taken predecessor quantum field theory, which we barely understand, and built a working containment system using materials that shouldn't be able to handle those energy levels. It's like watching a child build a fusion reactor out of spare parts and pure determination. Can we help them? Moros was quiet for a long moment. Maybe. If we can integrate our predecessor stabilizers with their system before it collapses. But Zethus, even if we succeed, someone needs to stay behind to maintain it. This isn't a solution you can automate. The Wanderer up close. When they finally docked with the Wanderer, Zethus was struck by how small everything was. Valerian ships were built for comfort and longevity. This human vessel felt cramped, efficient, designed for speed and purpose rather than luxury. Captain Chen met them at the airlock. Up close, she looked even younger and more exhausted than on the screen. Commander Zethus. Chief Engineer Moros. Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure anyone would. We protect this sector, Zethus said simply. That includes protecting it from our own pride. Show us your containment system. Chen led them through narrow corridors to the ship's engineering bay. What they saw there made both Valorians stop in their tracks. The containment device was a maze of improvised connections, human technology welded to predecessor artifacts, held together by what looked like determination and luck. And it was beautiful. You built this in how long? Moros asked, his voice filled with something between horror and awe. 6 hours, Chen replied. After we woke the Void Eater, we didn't have much choice. We grabbed every piece of predecessor tech we'd recovered, threw it together, and prayed it would work. 6 hours, Moros repeated. We would have spent 6 months just planning this. Yeah, well, we didn't have 6 months. We had 6 hours. Understanding the impossible. Moros began examining the containment field, his sensor scanning every connection, every power flow. Zethus watched Chen, seeing the weight of command on her young shoulders. Captain, why were you excavating predecessor ruins in the first place? Chen shrugged. Humanity's new to the galaxy. We figure the best way to catch up is to learn from those who came before. Most species seem content to maintain what they have. We want to understand what's possible. That curiosity nearly destroyed this sector. Yes, it did. But that same curiosity might save it too. Chen gestured to the containment field. We made a terrible mistake, Commander. We own that. But we're not the kind of species that runs from our mistakes. We fix them or die trying. Zethus felt something shift in her understanding. The galaxy had seen humanity's impulsiveness as a weakness. But maybe it was also a strength, the ability to act decisively when action was needed, to take risks when playing it safe meant certain doom. Commander. Moros called out. I think I see what they need. The human field is brilliant but unstable because it's generating too much waste heat. If we can integrate our thermal dampeners and quantum stabilizers, we might be able to extend the containment indefinitely. How long will the integration take? With human help? Maybe 12 hours. Chen checked her chronometer. We have 18 hours before catastrophic failure. Let's get to work. When 2 civilizations worked as one. What followed was the most intense collaboration Zethus had ever witnessed. Humans moved with frantic efficiency, their shorter lifespans making every second precious. Valorians worked with methodical precision, their patience born of centuries. Together, they achieved something neither could have done alone. Moros called out instructions, and human engineers implemented them with startling speed. Chen translated complex Valerian concepts into terms her crew could understand and act on. Zethus coordinated the effort, seeing patterns neither species had noticed on their own. "The quantum field is stabilizing," reported a human engineer named Rodriguez. "Heat levels dropping to sustainable ranges. Temporal distortion normalizing," added a Valerian technician. With 5 hours remaining, Chen allowed herself a moment of hope. "Are we actually going to pull this off?" Moros nodded slowly. "I believe we might. But there's still the question of maintenance. Someone needs to monitor this system constantly. The Void Eater hasn't stopped trying to escape. It probes the containment every few seconds, looking for weaknesses. The sacrifice humanity didn't have to make." Chen's crew gathered in the common area of the Wanderer. 41 humans, all of them aware of what staying behind meant. They would live the rest of their lives, years, maybe decades, maintaining a prison for a cosmic horror, ensuring it never broke free to devour inhabited worlds. "We knew the risks when we signed up for deep space exploration," Chen told them. "No one is forcing you to stay. The Valorians have offered to take anyone who wants to leave." Not a single hand was raised. "Captain," said Rodriguez, speaking for the group. "We woke this thing. We're responsible for keeping it contained. Besides, someone's got to make sure the Valorians don't overthink the maintenance schedule." The comment drew tired laughs from both species. Zethus stepped forward. "You don't have to do this alone. The Valerian Empire is assigning a support crew to remain with you. We'll rotate personnel every 6 months, ensuring you have company, supplies, and relief when needed. And we're installing long-range communication systems so you can stay connected with Earth." Chen looked surprised. "Why would you do that?" "Because," Zethus said, "we made an error in judgment about humanity. We saw your speed and assumed recklessness. We saw your youth and assumed ignorance. What we failed to see was your courage and your ability to learn from mistakes. You're not perfect, Captain Chen. But you're not children either. You're exactly what this galaxy needs, a species willing to act when action is required and to stand by the consequences of those actions. The beginning of something new." 3 weeks later, Station Kepler-7 buzzed with activity. The 17 star systems had been successfully released from their temporal freeze, their inhabitants never knowing how close they'd come to oblivion. The Void Eater remained contained, monitored by a joint human-Valorian crew aboard an expanded Wanderer. And throughout the galaxy, word spread of what humanity had done. The KRYLL, who had dismissed humans as irrelevant, sent ambassadors to Earth. The Etherians, who had refused to trade with humanity, opened their markets. Dozens of species that had barely acknowledged human existence suddenly wanted to know more about these strange, impulsive beings who had saved a sector of space. Zethus stood on the observation deck, watching the data streams from 1,000 worlds. Rel approached, curiosity evident in his flickering light patterns. "Commander, I've been analyzing human behavior patterns. I think I understand now why they're so different from us." "Oh?" "Most species in the galaxy evolved on worlds where patience was rewarded. Slow, steady development led to survival. But Earth was different, violent, changeable, filled with sudden disasters. Humans learned to act quickly because hesitation meant death. That impulsiveness we saw as reckless? It's actually an evolutionary advantage." Zethus nodded. "And now they're bringing that advantage to space. They make mistakes, yes. But they also make breakthroughs we'd never attempt. They take risks we'd never consider. And when those risks create problems, they don't run, they fix them. Do you think they'll change the galaxy?" Zethus smiled, her 4 eyes reflecting the starlight. "I think they already have. The question is whether the rest of us are ready to change with them." On the screen, a new message appeared from the Wanderer. It was Chen's daily status report, routine and brief. But at the end, she'd added something extra. "The Void Eater tried something new today. We adapted. All quiet now. Chen out. All quiet now. For simple words that spoke volumes about human determination. They'd made a terrible mistake, and they were spending their lives fixing it. Not because anyone forced them, but because it was the right thing to do. Zethus thought about the future, about a galaxy where Valerian patience met human speed, where ancient wisdom combined with youthful innovation. It wouldn't always be smooth. There would be conflicts, misunderstandings, and more mistakes. But it would never be boring. And perhaps, she thought, that was exactly what the galaxy needed. Not perfection, but progress. Not caution, but courage. Not species working in isolation, but civilizations learning from each other, growing together, becoming something greater than they could ever be alone. In the silent zone, a small human ship held back cosmic darkness. And throughout the sector, other species watched and learned. The humans had shown them something they'd forgotten in their millions of years of careful, measured existence. Sometimes, the impossible just needs someone brave enough, or crazy enough, to try.